Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4098. Today's date is June 12, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:38 p.m. Good thing about is that the weather is very chilled. Okay, right now I'm actually experiencing almost like a it kind of like a says wait where is okay, yeah, so it says 31 degrees celsius. Okay, 31 degrees celsius is a kind of like a somewhat something as a average kind of like a temperature, but right now I'm kind of like a feeling probably would be 25 degrees celsius. Okay, yeah, because I live in kind of like a little bit of kind of like a forest area, kind of like that. It's not forest, it has a little bit of urbanization, but urbanization have little less, and the trees are here are too much better, so that's why it's kind of like a feel little bit of chilly. Okay, so yeah, and also monsoon will gonna come at the 17th of June. So 17th of June, 17 to 20 June, they might gonna say monsoon will gonna come. I'm really excited. Not excited, but I'm really eagerly wanted, because this summer is like, yeah, very brutal hot. Whatever. Okay, let's just jump into the question. All right, let's go. All right. So question is, what is most important to me life right now? Oh, that's a really good question. All right. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Couple of days ago, I read a book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, by Covey. Stephen Covey. Okay, and I wanted to implement the value that book taught me. How do I supposed to do that? By asking question to myself and giving the honest answer. So I went to ChatGPT, tell him that he suggest me kind of like a 20. I read this book, I wanted to implement the value, suggest me 20 question. ChatGPT kind of like a suggest me 20 question. This is one of those question. The question, it says that what is actually most important to me right now? What is actually most important right now? My work, my health, my relationship. What is actually most important to me right now? Well, in my life, work is always been my first priority. It always be my first priority. Like if you kind of like went every segment of my life, I would always be consider my work is my first priority, as well as kind of like importance. Okay, and when I consider that is important, I spend more time on that. Okay, so what is actually most important thing to me is my work. Okay, then I kind of like decide that key what is actually important. Okay, because work is a priority. Okay, then after that, kind of like a something uh, family, friends, or kind of like a fun, or maybe I don't know. Oh yeah, relationship. I don't know yet. I never really kind of like a thought about that key these are kind of like a very much essential thing. I always consider my work is a very much essential thing. Okay, and that's why I'm kind of like a spending so much time on kind of like a doing my work and things and that and that. Right now, I am kind of like a building my application. Okay, yeah. Uh, so I'm kind of like a spending almost every time to kind of like a build my application and things and that and that. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of like a very much important to me. Okay, why does relationship is not really important to you? Why does work important to you? Like, I understand that why work is important to you, but tell me why not relationship is not important to you? Relationship means like that boy girl relationship, a family relationship, friend relationship, okay, like a kind of like a relationship with you have with another human. Why you are not put that much importance? uh why you not? Okay, let me tell you one thing. uh how is exactly my relationship status right now? um my relationship with any, do I have any kind of like a girlfriend? I don't really have any girlfriend. What is exactly relationship with your family? um okay, I'm not consider that it's too much. It's okay. All right. What if tomorrow you might lose your parents? Then what do you feel? um I feel little bit of kind of like a sad, definitely. Okay, but I will not gonna stop my life. Okay, and I accept the whatever thing actually happened. Okay, so from your point of perspective, your family relationship is not really that much important. It's okay, kind of like a thing. Yeah, it's okay. Why you have kind of like a really okay relationship? Why not you have good relationship? uh why not I have kind of like a good relationship? Like, what exactly is this thing that ki, why are you kind of like a so much giving importance to your work, but why not you are kind of like a giving importance to the people? uh why not? Okay, I know it's a very hard to get kind of like a give the answer, but let's just say, okay, yeah, um you will kind of like a have a girlfriend in the future, girlfriend or significant other, things and that. So in that situation, what is actually importance, your work or your significant other? Obviously my work. Okay, yeah, even I love her, but still my work is a essential, it's my priority. But to, why are you not loving her like a, like what is actually like why? I don't really have any kind of like answer regarding about that. Like basically, if I'm kind of like asking this question to myself, that key, like, okay, let me kind of like tell you. One of my friend named Prashik is a very emotional person. He's a particular person, he has a kind of like a very much, he put so much importance towards people. Like basically is this thing, from my point of perspective, I say my work is a very much importance, but from Prashik point of perspective, the people are really important. Okay, yeah, he kind of like a believes in people. He believes in kind of like a relationship. He try to maintain it, try to intervene it, try to feel good, try, yeah, like this is kind of like a thing. So he is a kind of like a particular person who kind of like a feel really good when he interact with the other people and things and that. Okay, so he has a kind of like a that much like a people person. I don't have that. Like a example, um I will not gonna call my friend. I will gonna call my friend when there is a work. I will not gonna call any random person, even if I know that particular person. I will not gonna call without any reason. I will gonna call with kind of like a some reason. I didn't really made this rule, but it's just like that na ki without having any reason, how do I supposed to be interact? But when I have a reason, then I will gonna talk with the president or prime minister. Okay, yeah, I am not that kind of like a people person. Okay, yeah, that is the kind of like a things, and I think that na ki these are a kind of like a something that ki I don't know, like what I realize kind of like a things that ki human mind is a kind of like a relative. It change throughout the time. You improve your skills throughout the time and things and that and that. But if I'm kind of like a looking towards myself, I never really have that kind of like a something that ki people person, nothing really at all. This is kind of like a never really excite me that much from my point of perspective, but probably this is wrong. Okay, yeah, because I think that na ki I don't know. I have to be learn this thing because being social, like a whatever the kind of like a some goals and ambition that I wanted to achieve, obviously I have to be people person. I have to be kind of like a somebody talk and things and understand. I don't know. Okay. And I think that na ki okay, let me tell you one thing. Okay. The I don't know how do I supposed to do this thing, but I have to be do that. I have to be kind of like a became people person. Okay. Now most of the people kind of like a thing that key if you are kind of like a focus towards career most, then you are kind of like a spending less time with your family, your friend, or maybe people. Like basically, if I'm kind of like a spending 80% of my time on kind of like a career, obviously I have 20% remaining, so I will kind of like spend only 20% with my family and things and that and that. So usually from mathematic calculation point of perspective, this might be a kind of like a very proper answer because I spending more time on my career, so obviously I have very less time remaining for my people, right? But that is not. Oh yeah, it's not. It's not like that. It's a mathematical point of perspective. It sounded kind of like a something that key like a good or kind of like a perfect equation, but in reality that is not. Okay, like it's not really that key kind of like a something we are always been kind of like a something that key we focus on one thing so we cannot focus on another thing. No, it's not. We focus on one thing, we also can focus on another thing too at the same time or things and that. Okay, like I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing, but it's not a kind of like a 80-20% ratio. It's a kind of like a things that like how much I feel important. So yeah, like example is this thing, let's just say that ki I have a kind of like a small job, but the kind of like a things that na ki in between my wife get pregnant. What is actually important situation? Obviously I my staying with my wife is really essential. Even if in a career point of perspective something really big happened, I have to be with my wife. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a things. Okay, I prioritize the kind of like a task regarding about the situation and time. Okay, so what I'm saying is that ki what is actually really important for me. I usually say career, okay, but when the time came, I will kind of like spend time with the people. I also like there is a couple of things that I decided that I will gonna do in my entire life. Okay, I make sure that every year I will kind of like spend time. I will kind of like simply spend time with my friend as a vacation, and we will kind of like went somewhere for a week or somewhere, spend time together, climb the mountain together. Yeah, mountain together, climbing the mountain together. This is the kind of like a things that I wanted to do. Because of that key, climbing a mountain is a kind of like a really adventurous task, and I wanted to experience this adventurous task with a kind of like a people, so usually my friends. Okay, and I will kind of like do this thing. Okay, then also I'm belong to the India, so I will kind of like follow some certain thing. um, I'm not really sure will it be happen or not, but okay. At 1st of January, every year at 1st of January, in my home, when I will have a home, in my home, I will kind of like do this Paritran part. Okay, what's the Paritran part? A Paritran part is a kind of like a something. I belong to the Buddhist community, and we have a kind of like a Paritran part culture where we kind of like something that key, kind of like a something that key. Um, kind of like a give the blessing to the society, and kind of like a give the blessing to the kind of like a family and things and that. Like basically I right now I live with my parents, and my mother kind of like do the paritran part every single year, okay, for kind of like a blessing at home. Like the monks are actually came, they kind of like do the paritran part, they kind of like do this like a cultural thing, whatever it is, okay, yeah. They kind of like give the blessing to the kind of like a family member, to the home, to the society and things and that, okay, yeah. So this is the kind of like a things I would gonna do, okay. um is it kind of like a people kind of like a thing? I don't know, but I will gonna, because I believe in that particular stuff. I grew up on that particular situation, and I grew up on that things. I will kind of like carry forward that, okay. uh Ganpati festival, I love Ganpati festival. I also wanted to be celebrating the Ganpati festival, but the problem is that na ki I am not belong to the I'm not kind of like belong to the kind of like a something uh, Hindu culture, or I'm not kind of like belong to the Hindu caste. I'm belong to the Buddhist caste. Okay, but usually a Ganesh festival is a kind of like a very much essential. It bring people together. Okay, and that is the main purpose of this Ganesh festival. Like Bal Gangadhar Tilak is a freedom fighter of India. They kind of like established this Ganpati festival to kind of like bring people together and kind of like a talk about the independence of the India and things and that. And because of since then, this kind of like assembly culture continue, and it will become kind of like a big festival. Okay, and I wanted to celebrate the festival because I also wanted to be part of this thing. Okay, so obviously, if my wife is a kind of like a Hindu, obviously I would have a Ganpati festival. But if she is not Hindu, then what exactly happened in my office? I will kind of like a celebrate the kind of like a Ganpati festival. Like a Ganpati festival is a kind of like a things that ki in my office kind of like a people came and things and that. Okay. Um this is kind of like a things that I would gonna do. Ganpati festival is a kind of like a one of the important thing, and in my office culture, I will kind of like a celebrate the Ganpati festival. I let them. Okay. There is also a couple of things too. Okay. Regarding about the office. Okay. In my office, I will kind of like a making sure that ki we will have kind of like a once in a year we will have kind of like a badminton competition. Okay. That ki every employee of my company, we will kind of like a play badminton or things like that, and that a kind of like some sports activity. Because yeah, I wanted that ki my employee should supposed to be kind of like a being healthy and kind of like a stay with me for longer period of time. So this is kind of like the things that I was gonna do. Okay. uh yeah. Probably, I don't know, but does it kind of like somebody represent that ki I am a people person? I don't know. Like basically, I don't really have any kind of like a somebody a kind of like a meter for kind of like a telling me that ki how am I people person or not and things and that. I'm not really sure about that. Okay, but probably I don't know. I knew that ki it's a kind of like a things that ki I have to be kind of like a something that ki learn all those things. I have to be kind of like a people person. I have to be like I do genuinely care for people, but it's not really. I am kind of like a represent by care. I represent this care by doing action, like a kind of like a something that ki okay, I might not gonna spend time with my kids. Okay, like in the future, if I'm kind of like a looking into the future, I might not have time to spend with my kids because of time and things and that. Okay, but I will kind of like give them proper guidance through the artifact, through the video artifact, through this thing, or yeah, I will kind of like give them artifact, give them kind of like a proper guidance regarding about their life, what would be, how should you supposed to be do this, do that. Okay, obviously I would not gonna control them. I will kind of like let them whatever they want it to be. Okay, but I will kind of like give them a proper guidance with not physically but kind of like a digital point of perspective, like this artifact or things and that probably. Okay, uh, I will try to kind of like a make sure I will have kind of like a some sort of amount of time to kind of like a spend with my family and things and that, but I can't promise anything at all at the moment. I don't know what will gonna happen, or maybe something that nothing will gonna happen. I'm not really sure about anything at all. So like basically is this saying that what is actually most important for me, if I'm kind of like a try to give this answer, every single time my work is a very much important, every single time, even if I kind of like a try to tell you that people are really essential and things and that, but every single time my internal mind is kind of like telling me just my work. Okay, yeah, but why do you kind of like things that ki work is a kind of like a very much importance? Like what do you want it to achieve? Money? No, not money. Like basically no, like basically I am building this artifact, or I wanted to build this artifact is not for the money. Obviously I wanted to earn money, it's not like that I don't want to earn money, but my main purpose is to not to is not is main purpose is kind of like add value in people life. Like I'm recording artifact for past 11 year, it had so much amount of value in me. I wanted to kind of like simply share this value so that people should supposed to be experience this value inside of them. Okay, this is kind of like a things that I will gonna do. Okay, regarding about the atom, I wanted to build the atom that would kind of like simply predict the future and things and that. I wanted to do this thing to kind of like somebody add value in the community, so that they would kind of like understand, or they would kind of like realize to figure it out the worst possible consequences, and kind of like not to take that worst possible consequences, things and that. Okay, predicting life is a kind of like a is yeah. I know is Adam is a kind of like a thing that predicting a future is a kind of like a very big word, but it's a very kind of like a very common thing. It's not like that kind of like a some stuff. Regarding about the Gurukul, same thing. I wanted to add the value in the people life, because the way that I kind of like get the education, I'm from India, the way that I get the education is a completely useless. Oh yeah, and I realized that a kind of like how do you supposed to be became better, became kind of like a became kind of like a something that key understand the education. Like we don't really understand the meaning of education. Like Indian education system are just kind of like a somebody a factory where kind of like a people just learn writing and reading and things and that, but they don't really understand the what is actually the true purpose of humans and things. Education system is our education system, or right now Indian education system are not kind of like a providing that. I wanted to tell you, my Gurukul program is a kind of like a letting them kind of like a give them a proper knowledge regarding about who they are, what they are, their purpose, what is actually their things, stuff. Okay, yeah. Indian education system is actually mostly focused on marks and kind of like exams and things and that. But my Gurukul system is completely without this focus on kind of like a simply internal understand regarding about knowledge and things. It's not for money, it's a kind of like my work will kind of like add value in people's life, and I wanted to make sure that the value it should supposed to be life, the value they are getting are kind of like as good as possible as it can. This is kind of like a things that I do, and these are kind of like a value represent through my work. So that's why I'm kind of like assembly putting so much importance on my work. So so basically is this thing that na ki maybe like if my end of the day would be my end of my life would be kind of like a one thing. If you're gonna ask me the one question that ki what is actually importance to me right now, I still gonna say my work is essential, even if my last day of my life would be. So yeah, this is kind of like a things. Am I kind of like a somebody consider myself a kind of like a very like a god level kind of like a thing? No, definitely not. Okay, and I don't want to be kind of like a somebody consider myself as a god level, and also I don't want it to be kind of like a people consider me to that kind of like a personality and things and that, but because it's not right, it's a cripple the society. Because when you are kind of like a believe in something more than yourself, then that thing will kind of like a cripple you from inside. So if the people are kind of like a believing me more than themselves, then basically my thought process I will kind of like a cripple them, because I also human, I also make mistakes too. Okay, so yeah, and this is kind of like a thing. So I will gonna make sure this will not gonna happen too. So yeah, whatever. Regarding about the question says, what is the most important to me in life right now? Is my work. This is it. Thank you.